I'm now going to start going through some of the basics that you're going to need to know in order to work with audio in MaxMsp. The first thing you're going to need to know is how to get audio in and out of MaxMsp, and that involves two objects, ADC, with this squiggly line which is called a tilde. The tilde is a representation of audio in MaxMsp, so any object that is audio related will have that symbol at the end of it. Okay, so that's the audio in. To get the audio out is DAC. Or you can also use this object here with a little speaker. The other two objects that you're going to require to get audio in and out of Max are the cycle object and the multiply object. The cycle object acts as the waveform, so it's just a sine wave, and the multiplier acts as the amplifier or the volume. So we need to start connecting all these things together to create our mini synth. So we're just going to start with a cycle object, which, as I mentioned before, is a sine wave. We're going to give it a frequency of 1000 Hz, and to that we are going to add the multiply tilde, which acts as an amplifier. And the amplifier function, you can have anything between 0 and 1. Anything over 1 and it will be distorted. So we'll start with 0.5, and we obviously want the sine wave itself to go through the amplifier to create some sound, and then simple as adding an output and connecting it up. So let's see if it works. Yeah, there we go. I'm now just going to give you a quick example of the amplifier itself actually working. So if we take not a number box this time, but we want the other version so we can have decimal places, and go to the patch inspector. We'll say 2 decimal places to give us a bit of freedom. And like I was saying before, you don't want the number to be over 1, and you don't want it to be less than 0. There we go. And just add that to the right outlet of the amplifier. And let's have another listen and see what that number box does. As you can see there, the number box is changing the volume of the sine wave. I've also just added a number box going into the first input of the cycle object, so you can actually change the frequency by hand. So I'll just show you how that works. If we turn it on, and you can hear it sweeping through the frequencies. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is show you one last very basic object that converts your MIDI notes to a frequency, so you can combine the patches that we've made in previous tutorials with this to make a bit more reliable synth. So the object we're going to look at is MTOF, MIDI to frequency, and all this does is takes in a MIDI number and throws out the equivalent frequency. So here you might recognise the noting in the keyboard that you've seen before in previous tutorials. I've got these 2 number boxes here, and one is showing you the actual MIDI note number and one is showing you the MIDI note. So if we bring this MTOF object over here and we want to convert the MIDI note number to a frequency, all we need to do is put it through that object. I'm just going to put a number box on the other side so we can see what frequency we're getting in replacement for the MIDI note number. So I'm thinking middle A is 440. There you go. The last thing we need to do is just connect this frequency that we've got from the MIDI number to the cycle object. now we can get rid of that one, and you'll see that instead of getting rubbish MIDI piano out, we'll get a slightly nicer sine wave.